I think I might have messed this up, you know. I know we've been going back and forth about British bias. I said to you, no, British bias isn't really a thing. It's nonsense. You guys are abbots of unreason. This can't be true. You only need to go and listen to Martin Brundle to hear how he talks about a Max Verstappen. Crofty now on board too, waxing lyrical about Maximilian Verstappen's not insubstantial skills behind the wheel of an F1 car. British bias is a myth, Cameron said. But on my wonders today, on my research, I see evidence to the contrary, and I think I need to bring myself to the untruth, unreason parapet and say some honest, earnest apologies. Here's what I found. I saw a power rankings table, average for the season amongst all the 20 drivers. Guess who you think was top? Of course it has to be Max, eh? Four-time champion, some say soon to be 5. Brilliance across the board. Won the second half of the season in a car that was ostensibly, by all accounts, not the quickest. That went to Lando Norris. So surely, since Maximilian Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship by dint of the multitudinous mistakes made at the altar of Lando Norris and McLarenville, surely Max Verstappen, on average in the power rankings, had to be top. Let me set the table here. What are the power rankings? I hear you say, well, every race weekend, 5 judge panels, a 5-judge panel even, assesses each driver after every Grand Prix and scores them out of 10 according to the performance across the race weekend. Taking machinery out of the equation, that last stanza is key. Taking machinery out of the equation, our experts' scores are then averaged out to produce a race score, with those scores then tallied up across the season on overall power rankings leaderboard. Right, so here's where it gets techie, ladies and gentlemen. You would assume then, with all of that criteria, I don't even understand. I can't imagine nor envision an argument nor a world in which Max Verstappen, 4-time champion, isn't top of that power rankings. Here's who's top. Lando Norris. What? Oh, the humanity. For real this time. They've given him, over the course of the 2024 season, after 24 races, Lando Norris gets 8.2 on average. Max Verstappen is second on 8.1. Make this make sense, chat. There's something that I'm missing. My very small accounting brain has failed to account for something. There is something that I'm not seeing here. Are we not remembering Barcelona and Imola, where he won again, notwithstanding poorer machinery? There's something that I'm missing here. I must have misinterpreted the criteria. You guys let me know in the chat. Then 2, to sense check my maths, because you know that fundamentally your boy Cameron CC can be quite noddy and insecure with it. I went to sense check my maths, because I wanted to see Lando Norris, what he got for his power ranking at the Abu Dhabi race weekend, as versus, let's say, I don't know, a half decent performance from Max. Let's say, I don't know, what springs to mind is Brazil, Interlagos this year. Not a bad showing. Set the table, Cameron. At Brazil, Maximilian Verstappen goes from P17 to P1 in 43 laps of a 69-lap race, and their running sets fastest purple laps each and every single lap, as near as makes no difference, gapping the rest of the field, making the others look like they were going backwards somehow in a different formula, very reminiscent of 2016. By all accounts, not the worst showing that you'll ever see in an F1 car. On au contraire, mon ami, one of the best, some would say. So I thought, let me have a look at what that ranking was. As versus, I don't know, a decent performance from Lando, Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Lando Norris, as you might expect, it being significant, a seminal moment in McLaren's history as a constructors. 26 years since they won the constructors. And of course, Lando did put down a performance, notwithstanding the not insubstantial pressure from Scuderia Ferrari boys in Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. He hung on. So too did McLaren. 2.0 pit stop. That was necessary indeed if they harboured aspirations on delivering on the promise that was the World Constructors' Championship. Here's what the judges panel on F1.com had to say about Lando. They gave him a rating of 10.0. Tick. Perfect, but this is all relativity, right? We're going to compare and contrast here. Lando Norris, For our power rankings judges, Lando delivered at Abu Dhabi perfection on the final race weekend of 2024 season, making a statement with a pole position and victory to enter the winter break in style. No kidding, Sherlock. His triumph was also in terms of McLaren securing the Constructors' Championship, given the Ferraris are waiting to pounce on any issues in second and third. Props, but this is a game of relativity, right? Like that, you've got to have a benchmark. Let me check my maths and see what they gave Max Verstappen at Brazil, no less. I open it up and to my surprise, I don't see a number that begins with 1 and ends in O. Of course, he's got to get 10 out of 10 for Brazil. Let's recall what happened at Brazil. You saw those other 19 drivers could barely keep it on the black stuff. None of them. Meanwhile, Maximilian Verstappen was metronomic in his delivery. Oh, stop glazing, Max Cameron. Why do you need to talk about Max? Because I dine at the restaurant that is sporting endeavour par excellence. That's all that I've ever been interested in. And Max was nothing if not great around Brazil. So to my surprise, this panel in inverted commas ranks Maximilian Verstappen a 9.8 at Brazil. Here's what they had to say. Oh, the humanity indeed. Max Verstappen cut a hugely frustrated figure after the first part of Super Sunday in Sao Paulo, having been knocked out in Q2. Do you want to talk about qualifying anymore? We're going to talk about the race. After being knocked out of the Q2 phase of qualifying amid a red flag, which of course he had something to do with, and then fallen further down the grid with his engine penalty. Of course, that's all within Max Verstappen's control, right? A red flag, an inopportune red flag as far as its timing, plus the engine related penalty. That out, you've got to mark, like, of course you've got to mark Max Verstappen down for that as far as his drive, but I digress. Just a few hours later they continue. The Dutchman went from P17 to victory with a wet weather drive for the ages. Okay, the red flag worked in his favour this time, but our judges could barely take anything away from the performance he delivered around it, so then they gave him 9.8. Meanwhile, in Lando Norrisville, they gave him 10.0 at Abu Dhabi. What are we doing here? I know there is an element of subjectivity, but listen, sometimes the extent of the excellence in a performance, a la a Brazil 2024 by Maximilian Verstappen, a la 2018 by a Lewis, a la a 2008 by Lewis, a la a 2016 by a Max Verstappen. The extent now transponds, it drip feeds even into objectivity. You guys have heard me on this channel, notwithstanding all of the criticism. Oh, stop glazing, Max Cameron. Why I have to talk about this is because it doesn't make sense. We won't tolerate abbots of unreason, nor will we ever dine at the restaurant of untruth and or unreason. What we will never ever do as far as F1age is concerned, will never sacrifice truth nor objectivity at the altar of confirmation nor recency bias. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an absolute flipping outrage. That on two accounts, that Max Verstappen as a 4-time champion, unprecedented settings by the way, only a few men in F1 history have done that back to back to back to back. That with this in mind, he's 8.1, second place in the power ranking leaderboard over the course of the 2024 championship. That's count one. Criminal settings. Your second charge is, of course, that in Brazil, again, a generational drive, Maximilian Verstappen, according to the power rankings, gets a 9.8. Lando Norris, on the other hand, as at Abu Dhabi, this race weekend gone, not 9.8 to match the Max Verstappen drive at Brazil. He gets a perfect 10. This makes no sense. Again, I come to you with my cap in my hand, apologising. I've yelled and screamed that British bias, there is no such thing to it. It's nonsense, fugazi, a myth. But I feel like this, 10.0 for Lando, 9.8 for Max at Abu Dhabi and Brazil respectively, and so too on the overall power rankings for the season that was 2024. Lando Norris tops your charts with an 8.2 and Maximilian Verstappen is second on an 8.1. Ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.